guys, what is going on? Redmaster here, and welcome back to the episode of the tier list series, where today we are, of course, covering the Warlocks in this ever-growing list. Or really, we're getting to the point where it's like, you can look back at all of our past tier list videos, Vikings, Crusaders, Pirates, and realize that we are pretty much nearly done with most of, I would say we're probably about halfway, but there are, hold on, let me just check. There are 7 factions, so, you could count probably the Warlocks as being the halfway point, technically. We are halfway done with these. But yeah, we've done a lot of cards, and today we are hitting the Warlocks, which is probably considered the last of the more competitive factions. Of course, the other two being Pirates and Crusaders. The Ninjas you can kind of count, but then, the ninjas are ninjas, and the neutrals go everywhere. So, we'll just get there when we get there. So, with that being said, enough of me trying to open up this video poorly. The full tier list, of course, like always, is down in the description below if you guys want to read up on all the cards. But without further ado, let's hop right into it. And the first card I want to talk about is Fear. Now, ironically, when Fear first came out back in Call of the Grave, when me and Monger were, discussing our ideas about how we would review this card, we kind of laughed at it and said, oh yeah, this card won't be really used. But look at it, look at me now. Look at us now. A few months down the line since Fear came out, and it is considered, in my opinion, an A-tier card. Now, what kind of changed between then and now is probably the question that's going through your minds, maybe as well as why did you rank the A tier, but the reason being, Fear is a very, very effective card for what it does. For 1 gold, you can make an enemy unit, or any sort of unit for that matter, flee in terror, and then draw a card. A great cycling tool for your early game, or in general if you guys don't really have another card that you think will fit in a deck. Always you look back on Fear. It's a nice sort of way to delay the enemy and cycle your card very effectively. And of course, a lot of decks do need that nowadays. Well, not really all of them need it, but a lot of decks like to run that sort of, alright, I don't really need this card in my hand now, so let me cycle it for a better card. And that's a perfect, essentially a spot, or a perfect role for Fear. For the cheap cost that it's got, 1G, and again, the fact that it draws a card makes this card very usable in nearly every deck that runs it, because it's really only there for cycling. What more can I really say about a card like that? It sort of helps you get to what you need faster. And for the cost that it's got, it does that very well. So I think I've said that enough times already. So again, it's kind of a simple card, but its simplicity is what gives it this A tier ranking. So with that being said, enough about Fear for now. Let's move on to card number 2. Now, the next card I want to talk about is Drain Life. Now, for those of you who haven't really watched me before, or don't know about me and Drain Life, I essentially advocate for this card a lot. Drain Life is such a very unique card for what it does, and it just does a lot to help you in a match, all in one effective card. So for 4 gold, you not only deal 2 damage, but then you also give a random friendly unit a +2/+2 boost. Now, this boost is incredibly effective in games. You obviously can create a much more dangerous unit just by using Drain Life. You can hit the castle and then also give your guy an extra boost all in the same card at 1 cost, which is an incredible thing to do. Or you could essentially burn something out, hit an opponent's unit, destroy it completely, and boom, now one of your guys is even stronger to not only maybe deal with another one, but deal extra damage to the castle. You guys kind of get what I'm saying at this point. It's a very, very effective card, and that's why I rank it the way I did, as, what did I rank it as? An A tier card. The reason why it's not an S tier, it is a hefty investment in for this card. And if it backfires on you, it could backfire heavily, seeing as how you've made that unit an effective target. And if your guy doesn't really have a lot of health, it can be an easy burn target or just a target overall. So there are ways for this card to backfire, or if you have a, I guess, a a swarm deck, that's what the word I was looking for, and you use Drain Life, and one of your many disposable zombies gets that buff instead, I mean, maybe it's not what you were looking for. So this card can backfire in a few ways, hence why it's not an S tier, but I think it's still powerful enough to be ranked as an A tier nonetheless. So that being said, I think we can move on to our next card, because Drain Life, I'm going to stop talking about it because Drain Life I advocate too much already. Next, I want to talk about Professor Headwood. Now, Professor Headwood is ranked as a B tier card, but something might seem a little strange about that. Usually, especially with Awakened cards, they are very archetype, strict. So if you are running Headwood, you most likely are running an Awakened deck, which is why I put Headmaster Saurus in the C tier, because he has to be in an archetype or else he's not going to work. However, that is slightly different for Professor Headwood. For Headwood, you not only get to play him as a 2/4 body, but he deals 2 damage, explosive damage, of course, that, being in a, I think, 3/3 area. I might need to double check the range on that, but it deals 2 explosive damage, so it is reaching out to 2 random enemies, so that, it is effectively activating twice, which is not a bad deal. That you can definitely use this to disrupt enemy positioning, force them to spread out, even though they may not want to avoid damage, or if they, still have to be forcibly clumped up, you can, of course, trigger forward damage onto a large group of enemies, plus castle or enemies in general. So I think that does, that effective ability does place it slightly above the normal archetype strict standard. Because if you throw like a Headwood or 2 in a deck, it's not going to completely hurt you. And that can go for any sort of Awakened card or archetype card in general. I just find personally that if they, cards are strictly archetypal, um, then they're really not going to blossom outside of an that archetype deck. So, with that being said, Headwood is, of course, my personal exception to this. I feel like he is a pretty strong unit to include in any sort of Warlock deck if you're missing that 5 gold slot and don't have anything really else to substitute in. Headwood might be an interesting choice just to use that explosive damage, and with Rite of Awakening being only at 1 gold now, the possibility to effectively next turn play another sort of Headwood burst is very dangerous. Don't deny that. So that being said, Headwood, solid card, and with that, we can move on to our final card for this tier list. And that last card is actually Vampire. Now, Vampire, granted, isn't really used all that much in Warlock decks for a pretty solid reason. But I'm going to kind of explain that reason here and why Vampire is marked off as a C tier. Being, I think, one of the lower tier, oh, sorry, buddy, being one of the lower tier high gold costing cards, if you want to put it like that. So, where to begin with Vampire? Obviously, a 3/4 unit for 5 gold with flying and lifesteal, which doesn't seem that bad on paper, but when you think about it, 3/4 isn't all too strong, especially since we have White Knight, who I think is more available. Actually, let me just double check. Yeah, White Knight's a common, and while it deals less damage, again, the 5 health is more important when you're working with lifesteal. The fact that White Knight cannot be easily burned off as opposed to Vampire, which, despite them having only a 1 life difference, it's a very important difference. With, especially Vampire's gold range. When we start getting up into that 5 gold slot, let me just take you, let me just show you here. There are a couple of, Demon Hunter can kill it. Dire Badger, Dino Rider if he's got like a miner with him. The Forest Watcher can kill him instantly. The Furnace Knight, the Green Drake, the Grendel. Everything here can pretty much instantly take out, aside from 1 or 2, I think, unique cases, Wraith, Tarius, and Headwood. Everything is still, everything can kill vampires, I'm saying. And when Vampire has that lifesteal, that, it's important for him to be able to kill a unit to gain back that life. It just doesn't work out. And if you want that 3 attack for your lifesteal, just carry a Blacksmith or Armory for White Knight, and boom, you effectively create a much more scarier Vampire for a cheaper cost and with more life to boot. So Vampire, not that strong, and his low health with the life steal ability, is the reason why I marked this card off as a C tier card. That being said, guys, that's going to do it for the Warlock tier list. I know not a very long one. Usually there is, I think, one more card than this. I know I usually do 5 instead of 4. But for this one, the Warlocks do have a little less cards than the past 3 factions. So, yeah, and pretty much everything else is self-explanatory, I feel like. But if you guys do have any sort of questions or concerns about my tier list, which again in the description below, if you guys want to take a read at that, again leave me a comment in the comment section and do explain to me why you feel differently. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions on this. These tier lists have been great at sparking conversation and debate, which is awesome to see in a community such as this one. So with that being said, guys, if you enjoyed the video, please hit that like button, share with your friends, and comment down below your thoughts on the Warlock tier list. And while you're down there, not only giving the tier list a read, hit that subscribe button, show your support to the channel, help us grow all by clicking that subscribe button. So with that being said, that's all from me for now. So until next time, stay gaming.